this video, I want to talk about automating operations within SQL Safe. In SQL Safe, we have what are called policies that are used to execute operations per schedule. You can create backup policies, log shipping policies, and or restore policies. In most cases, you'll at least have a backup policy to create or created to manage your backup operations. As an introduction to policies, I'll go over various steps required to create a policy of each type. What we're looking at right now is the SQL Safe Management Console. This is the view shown when you launch the tool. The first thing we want to do is navigate to the Policies view. Now, normally, once you access the Policies view, you'll see the list of policies created for your environment and the statuses related to those policies. In this particular case, however, I don't have any policies created as of yet, so the screen is empty. What we'll want to do at this point is create some policies. So to do so, we'll click on the Create Policy button found on the ribbon. In this particular case, I want to create a backup policy, so I'm going to select that option. What opens is the SQL Safe Backup Policy Wizard, and this will walk you through the various steps required to create that particular policy. You can see that there are a number of steps here on the left-hand side. Now, before I move forward, I want to point out this help link that's found in the upper right-hand corner. This help link is very helpful, especially when you're trying to familiarize yourself with the options that are presented on each screen. So if you're unsure what each screen is asking, click on the link and we will open up the documentation related to that particular view that you're looking at. Moving along, right here it's asking me for a name for the policy, so I'm going to call this backup example, or rather backup policy example. And if I wanted to, I could provide a short description just detailing what the policy is intended to be used for. In my case, I'm just call it short description. And for the remaining options, I'm going to leave it at default. If you're curious of what they are, you can click on help to find more information. On the membership screen, this is where I would specify which instances and which databases to include in the policy. First, you select the instances, then you select which databases. Now you can see there are a number of pre-built options here. It can automatically back up all databases, including users and system databases. It can limit itself to just user databases, or just system databases, or specific databases that you select out of the instance. In my particular case, I want to back up all user databases. I am, however, going to exclude this one particular database because I'll have another policy specific for that. And I'll do the same for my 2019 instance and exclude this database as well. And then I will move forward. On the options screen, this is where I get to specify which databases I want to include, or I'm sorry, which type of backups operations I want to include. Do I want a full, differential, or a T-log, or any combination of those three? I do want to point out that if I select full and differential, for example, it will ask me for different file locations on the next screen for the full and the differential. So I can potentially have the full writing to one particular location and the differential writing to a different location. I could also schedule different schedules for each backup type. So keep that in mind when you're creating a policy. And in this particular case, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to just leave it at the full and proceed forward. On this location screen, you do have multiple options in terms of where your backup file is going to be created. You can create a single file, you can create a set of striped files, you can write to TSM. If you have a data domain storage location, we support that, and as well as the different cloud options. In this particular case, I am going to write to a UNC share that's on this particular server. It just happens to be. And if you're interested in removing files older than X number of days or weeks or what have you, a certain time period, just check this option. This is real helpful when it comes to making sure that you only keep the backup files that you really need. Also helps in terms of disk storage space. If you're looking for duplicate copies of the same backup file. Mirror archives is what you're looking for. I'm not interested in that, so I'm just going to move forward. On the schedule screen, this is where you specify the schedule for the operation. Given that this is a full, I think in my particular case, once a week is sufficient. I'll proceed next. And on the notification screen, this is where you can configure your notifications. So if I'm only interested in anything outside of successful backups, I'll check those options off and then provide my email address. And proceed forward, review the summary, and everything looks good. I can click finish and SQL Safe will go out and create the job. Now the policy's been created, but I haven't actually ran the backup yet. If I wanted to do that, I can just click start backups and then click start and the backup job will commence. Oh, you can see some of the backups have already started. At this point, let's go ahead and move forward to creating a log shipping policy. So create policy, log shipping policy. Now, creation of the log shipping policy is going to be a little bit different just because there's going to be both backup and restore operations involved. But again, we do provide help links and we will, for the most part, walk you through the entire process. So I'm going to call this LS for log shipping policy and provide, again, short description. I'll leave these options as a default. Again, you can find more information about help, more information about what these options are from the help menu. On the primary, I am going to select source where my primary database is located. And in this particular case, is on my 2017 instance, and I've selected the primary database. Over here, you can specify the schedule at which the backup operations will run, and they are T-log backup operations, and they will run every 15 minutes by default. If I would like to change the compression or encryption options, I can do that from here. I'm gonna leave those at default. On the next screen, again, this is where you specify the location of the backup file that's going to be created, and that's going to be used for the backup and that's going to be used for the restore. UNC share is best, so I am going to supply my UNC share path here. And by default, it's going to delete files older than X number of days, and 3 days is by default. Oh, let me go back here. This enable network resiliency is a good option, especially when you're running to network shares. That way, if I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but if a network hiccup is encountered while you're writing a backup file or reading from the backup file, it doesn't automatically fail out the operation. It'll just pause the operation for X number of, or the time that you specify in these options, and then proceed or try again. So it's, again, nice option so that it doesn't automatically fail the operation when a network hiccup is encountered. It'll just pause it and then retry again later. On the secondary tab, this is where we need to add the secondary database. So I am going to add my 2019 instance here. Normally it's not good to use different instance or different versions of SQL Server, but unfortunately, this is the only things I have available for my demonstration. So this is what we're going with. I'll select my secondary database here. Now, I want to point out this initialization option. You have a few options when it comes to initializing your secondary database. We can create a new backup file when the policy is finished being created and use that new backup to create the database or initialize the database. Or you can initialize the database based off of databases or backups that we've already been done. In my particular case, I haven't completed a backup yet, so I don't have any options available. But if you did, you could use these. So I'm gonna go back to this one and click OK. Now, given that this is a 2019, or the source server, the primary instance and the secondary instance are two different versions of SQL Server, I'm going to have to choose this not accessible. And that's because if I don't choose that option, then we're not going to be able to continue restoring the T-log database. We're not going to be able to continue restoring the T-log backups. So keep that in mind if you're using two different versions of SQL Server. And the restore job, this is where you specify the schedule of the restore operation here. Click OK to save my changes, and then proceed forward. And this is again where you can specify your notifications. I'm not interested here. I talked about it earlier. And review my summary and click finish. Now you can see that SQL Safe has already performed the backup of the database. You can see the time here, and you can see when it performed that restore as well. So if we go back to SQL Server Management Studio and look here, you can see that the secondary is in the restoring state and everything's working as expected. Moving along, let's talk about the restore policies. Now to create a restore policy, simply click on Create Policy and select the Restore Policy option. And again, just like the other policies, we'll need to provide it a name. I'll call this Restore Policy Example. And I'll leave the description blank. Here we'll need to select the source. I'll pick my 2019 instance, and in this particular case I am interested in restoring my Northwind database. Now I did not mention this previously, but in order to create a restore policy, there must be an existing backup policy in place that backs up the particular database that I want to restore. So, and luckily for us, I created a backup policy earlier where we are backing up that Northwind database. So I'll select that as my location. Given that this is on the UNC path, I will turn on this enable network resiliency option and specify a specific Windows account that does have access to that share location. So give me 1 second here. Next, I'll select the target SQL Server instance, and for this particular example, I'm going to use the same target server. I'm just going to provide it with a different database name. In this particular case, I will call it Northwind RP for restore policy. I would then have to select the location of the backup file. In this particular case, I'm not going to change anything because that should be perfectly fine. And the database state, I want it to be fully accessible. These other advanced options I'm not going to change. The schedule, it says to occur every day at midnight, and in this particular case that should be fine, so I'll leave it here. And just keep in mind that it's going to restore the same the backup file every night at midnight. And if I'm interested in notifications, I can configure them here and review my summary, then click finish. The restore policy has now been created, but the restore has not actually been initiated as of yet. So what I am going to do just to demonstrate is click the start full restore and click start. Now what that should do is should go ahead and start that SQL Server agent job, run the restore, and you can see here that that restore has completed. When I go back to SQL Server Management Studio, refresh the list of databases, you can see my RP database has been created. And so that in it just basically goes over the various steps required to creating each one of the policies that is available within SQL Safe. Now, if you are interested in SQL Safe, I would recommend that you go download the trial and install it from your in your environment and test it out. You can download from our website at www.idera.com, and it does come with the fully functional 14-day trial. So again, if you're interested, please go download the tool and use it. Again, I want to thank you for watching this video, and I hope you find it useful. Have a good one.